If you've never experienced a near-suicidal depressive breakdown, I can tell you what it's like. I had one 5 years ago. Now hopefully this isn't you, but looking back, I know it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because up till then, I was just like every other clueless entrepreneur, maniacally focused on success, but ignoring all the signs, moving non-stop from one guru get-rich scheme to another, yet still completely in the dark about what I was supposed to do with my life. But as they say, that was then, this is now, and if you can hear my voice, then you and I both know we are ready to get serious about living the life we love, not just existing in it. But how do we do it? Join me as I work with hundreds of entrepreneurs just like you to learn their insider secrets, what's working now, and more importantly, what hasn't. All to help you, the struggling entrepreneur, decode what's keeping you stuck, enabling you to live better, accomplish more, and truly become the person you want to be. Hi, my name is Brian Forsyth, and welcome to Radically Unstuck. All right. Hey, welcome to Radically Unstuck. My name is Brian Forsyth. Welcome to the show. And I want to remind you, this is not just a podcast. This is a movement. The moment you decide to start living towards that life that you would dearly fight for, the one that you truly want. That's the purpose of this podcast. And I want to tell you, we have a fantastic guest today, Hana Dhanji. You could almost say what she hasn't done versus what she has done. Among those things, she's an MBA. She's a CEO of Healing by Hana, doing fantastic work, empowering and healing minorities and women. She's all about inclusion and diversity. She is, as you'll find out, she has a pretty fantastic story, and I won't spoil it for you. So go ahead, Hana. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you do what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and to be talking to everyone who's listening in. I was a former Wall Street corporate lawyer, so I worked in New York, London, and Dubai. And I went through a period where in the 2 years that I was working in corporate law after graduating, came down with shingles about 3 different times. This
man.
is that is a
I have had shingles. I know what that's about. So.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I'm so sorry you experienced that. It is painful. And they ran every test in the book they could. And it turned out that what I was doing was actually causing such high degrees of stress and dissonance within my body that I was physically responding to an environment that was no longer supporting me. So in other words, if what you do on a daily basis isn't helping you to achieve your greatest heights, if you're not bringing your full self to work, if you're in an environment that's stressful or negative or toxic or is not really allowing you to be your full self, there are ways that the universe or your body will tell you you're not on the right path. And I don't know about you, but I'm somebody who, when, you pick a goal, you want to stick to it, you will push through all odds and adversities to get there. There comes a point in your life where you need to stop and ask yourself, is this really why I'm here?
Yeah.
Am I contributing in the way that I am meant to be contributing? And in some ways you hope for as clear a sign as I was given that what I was doing in corporate law was not the contribution I was supposed to be making in this lifetime. And so once the doctors couldn't, explain it, and, friends couldn't explain it, genetic history couldn't explain it, I realized this had something to do with a calling that I was not answering, a calling to a higher purpose. And so I had to sit down and have a hard think about what it is, what value I bring to the world and to the table. And, pushing paper wasn't going to be it. So it turns out a lot of my friends and colleagues in the law firms would come to me as much for the legal advice as they would for, how do I get through my day? I'm stressed out about this. How do I navigate this workplace situation? And so I thought, if that's the value people are coming to me for, just casually, maybe there's something there. So I became a certified coach, an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming, decided I would become an executive coach to help people find their own breakthroughs in life, to become the people they were always meant to be.
You know, what's really interesting is that you're the third person that has been on this show who has said that, you know, they were tooling along through life and their body basically said, F you. Like, you know, like Nicole Starbucks.
Yeah, no uncertain terms.
Yeah, I mean, like Nicole Starbucks' body, like she just had like she started having like her body basically shut down. Like they took her to the hospital emergency room and like her body had stopped working. And, you know, and she had no idea. She wasn't sick, anything like that. It was just, you know, and every time I hear that story, I think about Kamal Ravikant, you know, who wrote that book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends Upon It. And, you know, and it's just this crazy thing that, you know, and I'm always thankful to hear that, you know, that the guests figured it out, you know, because when it's happening, it's like, you know, nobody knows. And then you're, you know, essentially you're not feeding your soul, you know, and your soul is dying. And it finally is like, look, buddy, this is not what you were here for. I didn't put you here to push paper. I put you here to change lives. And so, you know, so my question is though, like, how did you end up on the path that, you know, that eventually life said, you know, not this one? Like when you were 15, 16 years old, did you want to grow up and be a lawyer and, you know, like, or did you really want to be a ballerina, or like what was happening when you were younger?
Yeah, well, to be perfectly honest, when I was younger, I just wanted to get out of my house.
Oh, yes.
I had a bit of a difficult childhood. My parents didn't have the happiest marriage, and I just knew we were immigrants to Canada. I was born in London, England, but my parents are from East Africa and Malaysia, Indian background in general. But when we came, we didn't have much. So it's your typical immigrant story. You know, grew up at the poverty line. I used to get a lot of my clothes out of black bags, you know, donations that people would make, because it was, you know, the money would otherwise go to healthy food and our education. And the rest of it was secondary. We were always very nicely dressed because, you know, you didn't have to have a lot to treat what you had with respect.
Yeah.
So, you know, the clothes would always be ironed, and, you know, we'd always come to class with our pencils sharpened and our homework completed. There was a discipline and an ethic that came with that immigrant mentality. But I just knew the story we were always told was, if you worked hard and you did well in school, one day you get to determine the course of your life, that the path to freedom was performative.
Right.
And so I just did really well in school. I worked super hard. I was rarely outside playing with my friends, because I was convinced that if I wanted a life of peace and happiness and choice and freedom and respect and equality, it was going to come through outperforming. So when you start to perform in school, unfortunately, the question that teachers ask you isn't what makes you happy. It's how can we take you to the next performative level?
Yeah.
And so the epitome of that over time became, well, ascend to the corporate ladder, become the partner at a law firm, become the CEO of the big corporation, because that's just the equivalent in the workforce of being at the top of your class in school. So I started essentially kind of hopped onto a conveyor belt in a way of things that would win me, you know, praise and recognition and all the accolades. But of course, sitting inside me was this soulful, empathic, nurturing human being who was sitting there waiting to come out, waiting for a time when I had finished what I had to do to finally be able to express herself. The problem is, once you get into corporate law, or when you get into any of the corporate world, it's a never-ending ladder. You're never finished that journey. There's always another step. And I think that's when, you know, the subconscious part of me hit the brakes and said, we've done this for 20 years now. You know, we have continued to climb, continued to ascend this ladder. You're never going to stop doing this, heading in this direction, unless I put the brakes on and challenge you to think differently.
So, so do you
So
remember
it was kind of,
when like the first time that the cracks started the show? Like, was it 5 years? Was it like the first day when was there like okay, am I sure this is what I want to do? Or was it always just like go, go, go? And then one day it's like you, you realize different.
yeah, it felt at the time like it was go, go, go. And then one day I crashed. But looking back, there were always warning signs. There always are. It's the exhaustion, the burnout, the crying over a bad exam grade in a way that was disproportionate to its overall impact, wrapping my identity and my self-esteem up in what I was able to achieve rather than who I was as a person. I mean, I think that mentality was probably there throughout the entire journey. But I think until it smacks you in the face, like until it really hits you, with being hospitalized or in bed with repeat shingles, with suspected autoimmune, that you realize, look, you've actually been suppressing the signs. You've been ignoring them to the extent that they have been there. And the change only came at the highest point, the highest acuity pain point, which was I couldn't get up without feeling tired. I couldn't, there were days when I couldn't even pick up the phone because it was too exhausting, and I knew that my body was essentially shutting down. So I was either going to have to give up on my life or give up on the illusion of what I thought I needed to be in order to live a life.
So when you realized when you was this like a sudden realization? Because the first time you were like, okay, this is happening, and then so like it went away, and then when it
Yep.
came back the second time, did it take the third time before you sort of sat back and said, maybe life is trying to tell me something, or did you have an inkling the first time and then just sort of said no, and then how did that? What was that timeline like?
Yeah, so the first time I thought it was an anomaly. The first time I thought it was just, we had just finished a large project at the firm, and I thought I must have just been stressed out from that, but it was temporary. The project is done. We'll move on. The second time it happened, I thought, maybe it's just the type of work I'm doing. So I switched the type of work but stayed in corporate law. And then the third time I realized it was the whole thing. The whole structure was out of whack. It wasn't the project. It wasn't the firm. It was the whole plan. The whole path I was on was wrong.
So the day that you realized that you were about to drop, literally the epitome of, some would say the epitome of success. What was your what was the response to the people around you, when you were like, okay, I'm stepping away, fellas? Like, what was that day like?
I still get questions about it. I don't think it's intuitive to people who have seen someone like me succeed my whole life. I don't think it's intuitive to them that this would be my pivot. I think that people have made sense of it based on, she just wants to contribute. She just wanted to, do something more in service of others. I don't think many people have heard the story of how close to the brink that I got before I made the change. The response was confusion. The response was really, but when I sat down and talked with people one-on-one and really showed them how much what I do now in terms of coaching and helping people heal so that they can have breakthroughs in their career and personal life, when they understand that that's coming from a place of I've been there, then it sort of clicks. Like, this is actually what she was born to do. This wasn't just a strategic career change. This is her mission in life. And I think that it changes from a perspective of we saw you as the corporate role model to we see you as the full person you were always meant to be.
So in your current role as teacher and motivator and coach, do you see have you seen other people that sort of face the same kind of thing, or is it somebody that they've got a problem, they're trying to figure it out, and and then you're able to help them?
Yeah, so I think that there's a culture of burnout and overwhelm in general in consulting industries, in banks, in law firms, even in medicine, in a number of fields. And my clients will often come to me with I'm struggling to feel motivated. I'm gearing up for the next promotion and I want a competitive edge. It will often be framed in the context of wanting some sort of transformation or upgrade in their career status.
Right.
But as soon as we start working together, it becomes radically transparent and apparent that the thing that's really stopping them isn't a talent gap, isn't a skill gap, because those you can fix. Take a course, read a book. It's a limiting belief or negative emotion or a trauma that they haven't released. It's an alignment issue with who they really are underneath it all, because it takes an exhausting amount of energy on a daily basis to be someone who you aren't. You are putting in work into the performance instead of into being in alignment. Because once you are, it's like the water just flows down a pipe straight down instead of twisting and curving and bending. It has access. You have access directly to the motivational centers in your body. What you do and who you are line up. They're the same thing. The happiness you feel, the freedom that you feel within is completely different. They think they're coming to me for a career issue. The solution often is a person issue. It's the internal architecture of how their mind is wired, how they see the world and themselves in it.
So how many people have you worked with that they were this, corporate, monster? And, has anybody else done what you've done where they're like at the peak of success and worked with you, and now they realize that they're actually meant to be a gardener or, teach, like, has that happened? Like what's been the most jarring, like this dude's the CEO of like a Fortune 500 company and he takes off to Bali and he's like fishing right now. It's like, what's the most jarring switch between where he was and where he is now?
Well, it's usually pretty easy to tell when someone is unhappy and they've made a decision to leave their work already. So they're coming to me sometimes for just a validation and the reassurance that what they're doing is right. I'd say it's interesting. The most radical transformation is really somebody who goes from being a leader in their corporation or their company with a sense of duty and obligation to one of fulfillment. So you take the same person in the same position, and the radical transformation isn't take me out of the context. It's somebody who transforms within the context. Because if you're the only thing, if everything is held constant, like if you're not in a good place in your life and you change your location, you change your job, you change, etc., you're asking the external factors to do the happiness for you, to do the work for you to get to being happy. But if you kept everything else the same and placed the sole responsibility for your fulfillment and happiness in life on the way that you approach your work and the day and the people around you, the biggest breakthroughs happen when in fact somebody stays where they are, but they shift their perspective, they shift their approach, they shift the way in which they see the opportunities around them as serving them, not being against them. So I had a client who is a mid to senior level executive at a law firm. She's an associate, and she was absolutely on the brink of wanting to quit. And she kept saying, "This keeps happening to me. My boss keeps doing this, giving me work in this way, criticizing me in this way." And I said, "I want you to reframe this when you go into work tomorrow. In what ways is this not happening to you, but for you? I want you to sit down and write a list of 10 things you are grateful for about your work, 10 things you are grateful for about your boss, 10 things you really appreciate about the job you have, and 10 things that you can do differently tomorrow to empower yourself to make a change." And we actually walked through the strategies. We walked through how she was feeling every day. We walked through, new mentors, sponsors, work projects that she could get on. And she's actually transformed the workplace to serve her because she realized that this lack of happiness isn't always about what you're doing. It's about who you're being while you're doing it. So whether you're a gardener, cleaning a pool or running a corporation, if you aren't right within yourself, none of that will bring you happiness. Transformation always starts and happens from within.
So do you think that now that you're kind of, were you centered and focused and, doing all of those things that you're teaching now? Were you doing those in your old life? And was it just the fact that, it wasn't you. It was the fact that the universe was literally telling you you're just doing it in the wrong spot. Because I remember you saying something about people were even before you were doing corporate, and you were in that grind. Literally, it's interesting we call that a grind, but but even then you were still helping people. You were still helping people work through various things. And so it wasn't so much about where you were personally. It was literally about where you were relative to what sort of the universe, God, whatever your external or internal force is. It was literally that you were just in the wrong spot. You weren't doing the right work.
Yeah. Well, in a strange way, I'm actually really grateful that I went through the law experience, because there's no way I could bring the kind of insight and intuition and compassion, or even the practical advice that I can give my clients, unless I had walked in their shoes. So yes, to an extent, it wasn't what I was meant to be doing long term, but I feel like it was exactly what I was meant to be doing in the short term. Because it's given me all the skills and the language and the experiential knowledge I need to now do what I'm really good at. And it gave me the credibility. When I work with, Fortune 500 CEOs, or when I work with, corporate lawyers and executives or accountants or surgeons or doctors, to be able to relate firsthand to the demands that are placed on their time and their energy, and then to be able to present solutions from an internal and an external perspective, it's so much more compelling. And frankly, it was a kind of a cool training ground to test out whether the advice I was giving was actually working. Because I would give it to them, then I would watch them over the next week, and I'd be like, "That went well," or "We could work on that." So it was kind of really great, like experience in the actual situation in which the advice was going to be applied. And because I have a psychology undergrad degree, this is all kind of coming full circle. It wasn't entirely a corporate path the whole time. So we went from psych to law and my business degree, and then now the coaching. So it's all kind of blending together in a really beautiful way.
So out of the psych and the coaching and the neuro-linguistic programming, does all of that mesh together for you, or is there is it like kind of, NLP mostly, and then like a little bit of psychology, or like how do you see, because some people would say that all those things don't necessarily fit together. Like there are definitely people that say NLP is a bunch of poop, that's that's whatever, and I'm not that person. I think that NLP and in some aspects of psychology, because I use different things here and there, but I'm just curious how you feel about how they all mesh.
So it's a really great question. It is never a detriment to you to have a multiplicity of healing modalities or techniques or interventions to work with, because every person who comes to me is coming from a different starting point. So when I worked with the head of a surgical department at a prominent hospital in Baltimore, this particular individual is very auditory digital. So there's somebody who needs a systematic explanation for things. It has to be presented in sequence. It can't be felt out. It needs to be rationalized. NLP works really well for someone like that, because I can combine my understanding of neuroscience and how neurons fire and why behavioral patterns can change and what neuroplasticity is. And that's going to really work for them. Then I'll work with a wealth manager at a bank, and she won't care about the specifics of that. She just wants to know, how do I feel better? And I'll teach her techniques to anchor positivity and visualize. And that's the kind of work that she responds to, because she's much more visual. So they're not inconsistent if you are able to select the menu of techniques and ideas that you give to a person based on what they're feeding back to you. If you try and put it all together and deliver it as one lump sum, it's just not going to stick. I mean, if you just wanted to know what NLP was, you could pick up a book. If you want to be healed, using psychology techniques, using hypnotherapy, using coaching techniques, using NLP, then you come to someone like me who has the broad array to choose from. And that's when the fun begins. We can get really creative. We can get super customized. And the impact is so much greater when it's not just a conveyor belt system of, person walks through the door, you deliver this one model of breakthrough healing and motivation, and then they leave. It's so personalized. And so the more I learn, the happier I am, the happier they are.
Now, I would say that there's so much more power in, for you, right? Because if somebody's a psychologist, they're a psychiatrist, you see it a lot. Like I had a friend, and what he was doing was they had this, at the time it was very cutting edge, and they went to this company and they were like, hey, this thing is going to save you all this money. It's going to, do this. It's going to be amazing for your company. But this dude was the brightest guy in the room. He had created this, world renowned thing, and they presented him with something new, essentially, and he could not wrap his head around it, even though it was going to save him, right? And, I feel like it's kind of like your situation is so much more advantageous than that, because you've got all these different things, and you've got this much broader perspective. And I just see that, like, modern, like a mainstream psychologist, psychiatrist, somebody who is like a CEO in finance, it's hard for them typically to come at something differently. But you have all these different, brushes you can kind of use, and different, that's so much more advantageous for you, I would say.
I think so too. Yeah, I've had a number of people who have eventually come to me and said, "Look, I never felt comfortable with my therapist or my my coach, because they couldn't understand firsthand what I was talking about. What the work experience was like, what the corporate environment was like, or they only had one technique and it didn't work, or they had one viewpoint or lens. They were siloed in their thinking. Sometimes that depth of expertise is really helpful." But to have somebody who can, as you said, like, transcend these otherwise very siphoned off categories. You can be a coach, you can be a therapist, you can be, the corporate professional. Once you've got all of that under one umbrella, you speak to the clients on their level. You're able to be the friend, you're able to be the colleague, you're able to be the counselor, the coach, all at once. And there's a depth of that connection that leads to meaningful transformation in a way that you don't get when someone's approaching you from a theoretical perspective. You just trust somebody so much more who's been in your shoes, and that's really worked for me, and it worked for the client. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with what otherwise appears to be a bit of a mosaic style of education. It's really kind of come together really beautifully.
So, speaking of coming together beautifully, talk to me about your Healing by Hana, initiative, and how that came about.
Mm-hmm. So Healing by Hana, it's a company that essentially embraces performance at all levels. So the signature method that I use has 4 stages. Healing is the first. The premise of the work I do is that we cannot achieve breakthroughs in our careers and our personal lives until we've addressed the traumas or the issues of the past. So if you have experienced abuse or neglect or sadness or depression or anxiety in your life, whether early on or whether later in life, if we haven't fully healed from that, we don't have the foundation to be the highest form of ourselves. We don't have the foundation to achieve happiness and success at the highest level. So the first stage of my coaching process always involves the implementation of the NLP, the hypnotherapy, the coaching, and the psychology techniques. Once we've worked on those issues, then we do goal setting and visualization. The reason you can't do that first, the reason the healing has to come first, is because if you are still holding on to limiting beliefs, the ways that you set your goals and what you dream of for your life in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years is going to look a lot different. But once you've let go of the negative emotions, healed from any of those traumas or experiences, let go of the limiting beliefs, what's possible for you to dream of becomes so much more rich and so much more varied. So we do anchoring techniques and deep visualization therapy and goal setting. And then we move forward to the career portion. So if you want to be, financially free, happy, in a healthy relationship in 5 years and, building an empire for yourself in 10, let's reverse engineer from that back to today and think of the multiple paths to get from where you are now to where you want to be. And then we actually get to the implementation part. So what are the strategic steps we're going to take to get there? And then the last part of the Healing by Hana method, so you've got healing, aspiring, navigating through the career course, and the last part is attainment. So whereas most coaches or most therapists would give you a number of techniques and then leave you to implement them, I give you a system of measuring and being accountable for your own progress. So even after my clients have left and gone on in their careers, they take with them a series of exercises, techniques, and self-evaluation sort of systems that they can use as feedback mechanisms for determining whether they are doing their best physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially. And the concept is that if any one of these is chronically imbalanced, so if you're doing really well physically and you're doing really well financially, but you have been emotionally off balance for several weeks, any gains you make in the other areas will be cannibalized. So you're doing really well financially, you got lots of money, you're doing really well health-wise, but you've been really sad and depressed and anxious. You can bet your bottom dollar that you'll end up getting sick, which means you can't work. So your health and your finances will start to crumble. So if you can measure when one of these is out of balance, I give you techniques for how to bring them back into harmony.
So, and you primarily do your work with women, right? You don't have any powerful male CEOs, or is it just kind of whoever fits the program?
What's fascinating is that the pitch was made to women, but 80% of my clients are men. And so the trauma surgeon that I work with, the senior level associate at an investment bank, the mid-level associate at a law firm, and one of the partners at a different law firm, they're all men. So I couldn't quite figure out what that was about, but my sense is that although I'd absolutely love to work with more women, men are more willing to invest in themselves right away. And women take a lot longer to make that decision. And that's okay, but I hope that eventually they know that the help is there, that they are worth it. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a self-esteem issue, but maybe it's everyone else comes first. I have to look after the family, I have to look after my husband, I have to look after my parents, and then I can think about me. There's often that kind of thinking that goes into it. But I would like to see more women step forward. But I absolutely do work with men as well, and it's been a joy to work with both.
If I had to say for sure, or if I had to guess, I would say that there may be a lot of women that look at you and they may be just a tad intimidated.
Oh, that's too bad, because I'm just like everyone else.
I mean, I would, because either they're intimidated, or it's all about being in competition, and they might feel like because I know women, maybe it's a shock to the world, but women are like, if men are competitive, women are like competitive on another level. Like you guys are competitive on nail polish, checking out, well, she got a crappy nail. No, look at my nails be looking good.
I hear you.
I mean, it's true, right? When men are like the apex predators, but it's only because women choose to let us be. Women could go out there and kill a bear too. They would just do it, with a better technique.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to think that my relationship with my clients is always it's always about their making them the best they can be, and I try and take myself out of the equation as much as possible. So hopefully that's something that over time will become a little more apparent, and then they feel more comfortable coming, because I think that when we transform women, especially, they take that forward in a completely different way. When they are performing at their best, they give the best to the rest of the world, as mothers, as daughters, as executives. And so when women choose to invest in themselves, indirectly, they are investing in all those relationships that they put before themselves. an educated woman, a healed, powerful woman is going to be an amazing, amazing force for change in the world. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that changes over time.
Yeah, because I'm with you. I mean, the world needs more, powerful, motivated, focused women, that share their story, share their pain, but at the same time, they are like we need more Beyonce and less Cardi B. Like I draw
Right.
the line. Like we have Beyonce, and then you have Cardi B and like the Kardashians, and it's like that's like one side of the spectrum, two sides of the spectrum for me. And so
Yeah.
I'm with you. I really I fully support women finding their power, and because definitely more women need to be doing their the good work, and and you do need some transformation like you get with the Healing by Hana method, which sounds pretty complete. I got to tell you, if I was looking for a coach, I think that what you present sounds compelling.
Yeah. And if anyone does want to reach out, absolutely my email, you can always get me that way. It's Hana, HANA at healingbyhana.com. And otherwise my number is 647-613-4262, and I'm reachable anytime. So always open to a consult just to get to know everyone.
Definitely reach out. Definitely reach out and check out. So my question is, I didn't notice that you've written a book. Surely you have plans for a book, right?
Yeah. No, one's on the way. It's actually about the story, my journey through the corporate environment to this awakening that I had physically and emotionally, and now professionally, and then the impact, the case studies, and the impact that I've been able to have on students, on professionals, and what they're doing in their lives to pay that transformation forward. And it's a really remarkable story.
So are you sharing the title now, or are we too far off?
No, it's called, the second part of the title is still in the works, but it's called The CEO Mindset, How to Achieve Breakthroughs and Transformations in Your Career.
Yeah, straight to the point. I knew there was a book because there's too much it's just like a natural progression, like you're a coach, you got all the other titles, you got author, I figured had to be on its way. And speaking of sharing the good knowledge, and what is your tip that you are bringing to help our listeners get just one step closer to the wonder that is Hana Dhanji?
Yeah, I'd say the one piece of advice that I would give is give to others what you wish they would give to you. So if you are looking for validation, if you are looking for love, if you are looking for acceptance and belonging, offer that to someone else. Everything that we experience in life is a mirror of what we are putting out there. So if you want to feel empowered, help somebody else to find theirs. If you want to be respected, show that respect to someone in your life. As simple as putting your phone down and listening when they talk. Anything that you've experienced that you wish were different, start with putting that out there. It will come back tenfold to you. And it's these small changes on a daily basis that create the large transformations over time. And it's been a world of difference for me as I've seen it implemented.
So speaking of the day to day, I'm curious, what is your day to day look like? Are you one of those 4:30 in the morning waking uppers, or are you sleeping until 6? And just sort of tell us your morning routine.
Yeah, so the waking up and falling asleep time has been a little inconsistent lately, but it's generally 6:30 in the morning. I start with something called a morning formula. So every morning I get up and I do 3 to 5 minutes of just deep breathing. I'm still half asleep, so I'm not, getting into anything too switched on. It's just deep breathing for 3 to 5 minutes. And then I take out a vision map. And so is a description of myself in the third person. Hana Dhanji is a highly motivated, passionate, and successful entrepreneur. She connects with people on a deeply personal level and brings her best to her clients every day. There's just a few paragraphs like that. I've got my vision board, so I look at that and I do some visualization on the places I want to be in life. I read 4 or 5 daily affirmations, and then I end with a prayer that I wrote, actually. So just sort of a way of being. And so help me to be courageous, strong, patient, loving, and kind. Fill me with wisdom and understanding so that I may help and nurture others. Help me to reach and influence the people who need me and the women who are seeking to be empowered by the information I have. Keep me safe and on the path of least resistance and of greatest support for the world. So I just say that every morning. And basically by the time I'm done, I head off to the gym about 3 or 4 times a week. And I feel whole within myself, so I can bring that wholeness to the people that I interact with. When I'm centered and I'm happy from within, I have so much more to give, and that's really why I'm here.
I'm curious whether or when you started that powerful morning routine. Were you doing the powerful morning routine when you were a corporate lawyer lady, or did that start?
Nope.
Ah, okay. So what'd your routine look like when you were a corporate lawyer lady? What was your routine?
It was getting up at 6 still, an espresso shot, heading to the gym completely panicked over the emails that I was going to be, responsible for replying to within the next, hour or two.
Oh man.
It was a much more frenetic, hectic morning. The exercise routine was still there, so that was good, but I wasn't waking up with a center. I wasn't waking up with a focus and a calmness. It was a reactive existence rather than a proactive.
Yeah. I have this theory that starting your day with a little bit of pain, because like one of the things I talk about in my book, Crack the Depression Code, and just what I talk about in general is, being able to deny the things that your brain tells you about your limits. You probably have a experience with that, right?
Well, my trainer that I work with right now is all about the pain, let me tell you.
Funny how all the trainers are. They're always all about, and they're sitting there like more, and they're not even breaking a sweat, and you're...
Yeah, he's lately leg day is every day in his philosophy. so I get that treat 3 times a week of just deadlifting and doing lunges and Bulgarian split squats, and it's led to some amazing transformations in my stability and my balance and all of that. And so I thank him on the one hand. On the other, I don't think I've walked properly for a few weeks.
Oh.
So hopefully we'll get there.
I'm sure he means well. He's probably,
Yeah.
You're probably his star student. If I have to look at the rest of your life, he's probably telling stories about you like, she does so good, but she's always complaining.
It's at this stage, I sort of tell him it's a love-hate relationship. I wouldn't still be with him if he didn't push me. But man, and on that 4th set, which he'll surprise you with, because he says it's only 3, and he's like, just one more. The first one wasn't really a working set.
Right.
I'm too out of breath to curse, but there are times when I wish I had the energy.
Well, that's how you know you're having fun, when you can't breathe, right?
Exactly. The results are massive, though, and it's just that consistency and the accountability I get with him. It's been great, and taking care of your body is a form of self-care. So I'm all about just a little bit of pain for a lot of gain.
Hey, without a doubt, because it's what they say. It's not about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years, right? So definitely get in the gym, do your exercise at home. Do what it takes to take care of your body. Drink lots of water, right? It was one of the guests I had, Michael Mello. Drink lots of water. If you want to lose weight, drink water. If you don't want to lose weight, you want to gain weight, drink water. So definitely take care of your body without a doubt. So I really want to thank you for being on. This has been a really good show, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I'm kind of sad that you're not getting as many women to your practice as you want. But I do think that even though they're not coming to you, they're watching you, and they can see what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still doing the good work because you're the powerful example, and we, the world is a better place for your example, if you're asking me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure being here and chatting with you today. And it's an evolution in progress. So there's always going to be, a new cohort of people coming in. And so if there are any women listening who are on the fence, I do a free consultation. So do give me a ring. Again, that's 647-613-4262, or you can email me at hana@healingbyhana.com. That's HANA. And I'd be absolutely happy just to learn about your story and to get to know you.
And definitely look forward to that book, which is coming out when?
It'll be March 2021.
All right. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a good one. I can't wait. So
excellent. I'll make sure to send you a
yes,
copy.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. You can, so with that, I just want to say one last thing. Be kind to yourself. Be radically kind to yourself. Wherever you have been, wherever you have found yourself, the things that you've done, the things that you haven't done. If you're thinking, if you're feeling things that you would not want your mom or your best friend to feel or think about themselves or say,
Mm-hmm.
then I encourage you to let that go. It's not about whether it's true. It's about whether it's useful. Does it take you closer or farther away from the person that you really want to be? So radical self-kindness, because that's what it's about, right? Right, Hana? Radical self-kindness?
Yes, 100%. And you're right. It's about what serves you. And the more alive and whole and healthy you can be in your mind and in your spirit, the more you can contribute. And that's really why we're here, is to give to others. And in so doing, we give back to ourselves.
Yeah, and that is like service, right? Service is like, you want to be rich, you want to be successful, you want to be influential, serve people. Make your life about service, and at the very least, you will have a good one.
Better than what money can buy, let me tell you.
All right, and with that, I just want to say thanks again, Hana. Peace, y'all.